Hey guys, my name's Petey and I hope you're doing awesome. And today I just want to chat about fasting for a few minutes, and because I get a lot of questions about this, and I think a lot of people can really benefit from fasting. It's really interesting because in the Word we read this example, which I'm going to put on the screen for you right now, where the believers are saying, that they're fasting, and especially I think not while Jesus was there necessarily, but after Jesus left, that the disciples and apostles and all of them, they fasted at least on a weekly basis, and my conviction about that is that if everything is going well in my life, if let's say I have nothing to fast about necessarily, in that place of in my life, in that season, I'm fasting on a weekly basis, right? At least once a week. And the reason for that is that I believe that's very important, because we need to get our flesh out of our ways. And if we don't fast, it's going to be hard to do that, So let me just explain to you what fasting is for a minute. Fasting is really, in a nutshell, disciplining our flesh. So if you are struggling with something, an addiction, maybe you're that's the sin that you keep struggling with over and over and over again. What is really happening is you're warring against your flesh. Your flesh or your flesh is warring against you. It's this battle against the flesh, and we read a lot about this. Paul speaking about this a lot, where he says, I do the things that I don't want to do, and the things I want to do I don't do. And that's his flesh warring against him. And what we need to do, especially if you have an addiction or anything like that, is fast. Because what fasting is you're basically telling your flesh, you're disciplining your flesh. You're telling your flesh, hey, flesh, this thing here, this mind, this body of ours, we're bringing it under submission, and we're telling it, hey, listen, you will submit to me. And see, fasting food is one of the primary means that we can do that, because what we're doing is we're not eating. And so our body cries out and says, I'm hungry, And what we are telling our body, our spirit is telling our body, because it's just the spirit that can initiate a fast. Our spirit is the one who yearns to fast. If you fast, it's your spirit that's crying out to fast. And so your spirit is telling your flesh, you're hungry right now, but I'm not going to give you any food, because you need to learn to submit to me. And see, what we want to do is we want to let our flesh submit to our spirit. Okay. So if we do that, it's going to help us in terms of our unbelief, going to get unbelief out of the way, because unbelief is from our flesh, right? It's carnal. The word says that the flesh is that or the carnal mind is that enmity against God. Okay, so it's against God. So fasting gets all of that stuff that's against God, all of that unbelief, all those thoughts that say it's not going to happen, it's not, God is not caring, whatever, all of those lies, and the voice of the enemy that goes along with that, we get out of the way when we fast, okay? So it's very awesome, because when we get our flesh out of the way, guess what? God can minister to our hearts more easily, because there's not this whole barrier that God needs to get through, because it's out of the way, okay? So if you're praying for healing, if you're praying for people, if you are wanting to be used by God in a more mighty way, if you want to get a revelation from God, hear from God more, if you, I don't know, anything really, want to get something in terms of your spiritual maturity, fasting is the number one thing to do, man. Anything, eating disorders, addictions, drug addictions, pornography addictions, any kind of sexual addiction, anything that's bad. We can battle with fasting, and fasting is an incredible tool to do that. Now, practically, what is fasting? How do I fast? Personally, on a personal level, what I do is, and what I would encourage anyone to do is go once a week, say, okay, every Friday or every Monday or Tuesday and Wednesday, whatever you want to make it, go and say, on this day, I am going to fast. And do it on a weekly basis, do it every day. It's going to be hard in the beginning. I mean, every week, not every day. But it's going to be hard in the beginning, but it's going to be so fruitful for you. And so what I do is I say, okay, on this day, let's say Monday, I'm not going to eat anything. And what I do is I'll eat maybe the night before, and then this night I sleep, and then the next day I don't touch food. And it's funny, because the enemy then always tries to get the nice food around you to tempt you to eat. But you're just going to need to stand through that and be steadfast through that. And then and then you don't eat anything, and but you can drink water. Drinking water is important. I wouldn't suggest anyone to go on a water fast. I guess instead, unless like you've got some incredible revelation on that. It's awesome, guys, because in history we actually know that from the time of Jesus back way then, we have actually a few Bible verses on that as well, where Paul addresses it, and he talks about, everyone, don't fight about this. You can, and he talks about fasting. You can fast on any day you like. It's not a law which day you should fast or if you should fast, but it is beneficial. So you can fast any day you like, and don't judge a brother who doesn't fast. Don't judge a brother who does fast. Don't judge a brother who fasts on a different day than you. It's a personal thing, all right? And don't tell people that you fast. And what I mean by that is when someone, but I'm not going to go and I've seen this a lot, and it breaks my heart, because the word says that if you go and you proclaim, oh, I'm fasting to everyone, right there you've lost your reward, and God is not going to honor that fast, because you basically just got all your reward right there when you told everyone, hey, I'm fasting, look how holy and great I am, right? So but if an unbeliever asks me, hey, why aren't you eating? I have gone and told them, hey, I'm fasting, and then they love to ask me, why am I fasting? What's that? And I explain to them, and that can be a good way to minister to people, and there's nothing wrong with that either. The only issue is if we tell people we're fasting out of a place of pride, out of a place of I want to be exalted, out of a place of that. So it's really a place of humility. Don't proclaim it to the world. It's a personal thing. God knows it, He sees it, and that's all that matters. And it's also good, we know in the story of Esther, to call a fast. So a lot of congregations, assemblies do this. They would say, hey, there's something we need to fast about, and they call a corporate fast if you want, and or maybe asking a few friends to fast with you about something. That's also a great thing to do, because then everyone can hear more clearly and grow into God, and whatever the issue is, it can be tackled in an easier way. All right, guys, I hope that just gave you a glimpse of that. If you've got questions about this, hey, drop it in the comments, and I'll see if I can answer it maybe in the comments, or maybe I'll make a video if there's a lot of them, hey? All right, cool. Guys, may God bless you and keep you. Showers face upon you, give you grace and blessing. And I hope this really blessed you, and I hope this encourages you to fast, okay? And yeah, cool. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.